Bob Kay from the AMD World Championship. We're here today at the Sturgis 2010 rally, and I have with me Eddie from Civilized. This is a championship that's really focused on engineering and design, and there's no finer example here today than what Eddie has come up with his entry into the freestyle class. So starting off, Eddie, this is just such out-of-the-box thinking. What was your inspiration and design objectives when you started this project?
Well, I've been building bikes for about 16 years, and I pretty much had done everything and got kind of tired of the bike building scene. So when I came up with this bike, I knew that if I wanted to do something to satisfy me, I had to go really crazy. So I immediately thought of the idea of completely reversing the bike to where it drives from the front and steers from the rear. And immediately started doing some sketches. And believe it or not, the very first sketch that I did is this bike. I changed the bike almost virtually, maybe only 5% from the very first sketch. And then after that, I did a more detailed drawing, and I really liked it, so I decided that I would do it. So that was the inspiration, that I was just tired of building your standard rear-wheel drive front steer with forks and trying to come up with something different that's the same. I wanted to come up with something completely different, so I just switched the bike around.
Well, you certainly have come up with something completely different. Something like this, obviously there's nothing to use as a reference in going back and forth on your chassis or your body design. So where did you have to go from, once you had your drawings done and everything in place, did you start with the chassis and adapt the body panels to it, or where you had your sketches, did you get the sheet metal in place and then come in with the chassis?
Well, the sketch that I did was just a pencil sketch, and after I decided that was what I wanted to do, then I, being an architect also, I went to my drafting table and I did a scale drawing of my sketch, just a side view of everything, the entire motorcycle, to scale, wheels, body work, chassis, motor, everything. And from there, I did a see-through drawing of what the frame would have to look like. And of course, having to do, 10 or 12 or 15 different variations to make sure that once you get the drawing, the overall drawing done, then you have to design the parts inside the bodywork to make sure they work and everything clears, oil tank, battery box, where you're routing fuel lines and oil lines and things like that. So the very next thing I did after that was I had to draw the chassis under the bodywork, and once I got the chassis exactly the way I wanted it, which the chassis, by the way, is basically, in principle, a soft tail frame that is two soft tail frame rear sections put together. The front is just exactly like a soft tail rear, and the rear is just like a soft tail rear. Of course, it has suspension front and rear, air shocks. It's all the way down right now, but when it's in ride mode, it goes up 2.5 inches front and rear. So there's two sets of soft tail shocks on it, one in the front, one in the rear hidden. So what I did was draw the frame, and once I drew the frame, I had to design and build a custom one-off frame jig to be able to make this one frame. So then I had to design in scale on my drafting table a frame jig and all of the frame jig fixtures. So once I got the frame jig fixtures drawn to scale, then I had to machine all of the jig fixtures. So then once I got the jig fixtures made, then I could start building the frame. So the frame is basically, like I said, two soft tail rears.
So what type of materials are used in the chassis and this bodywork?
The entire chassis is 1018 steel, and all the bodywork is steel, except for the two side pods, the silver ones, which are aluminum. They're 063 aluminum, but everything else is steel.
Well, there's some pretty flawless execution on that. Nice flows, no irregularities. I mean, you've really done an excellent job with that. Let's talk a little bit about the power plant. Just what is it and why did you choose that?
Okay, the power plant is a Patrick Racing 101-inch motor. And I chose Patrick Racing because, he just builds beautiful motors that are really clean and nice. And his cases, although they're not billet, they are a very nice, smooth casting of a special alloy that allows it to be polished to look almost like billet aluminum. And I know Nigel, and so we just went with a Nigel motor because I just like his look.
Well, Nigel makes pretty good quality too. He's been around for a while and certainly fits the same effort and quality of this craftsmanship that you put together. Let's talk a little bit about wheels and brakes. You know, what do you got there? Where did those come from, and what kind of stopping power do you have?
Okay, well, the wheels are made by AMD billet, and the rear wheel was a design that he had just finished. And we saw this wheel at the Cincinnati trade show, and I liked it, but he only had that size, so I needed a 13-inch for the front, so he wanted me to design it, so I did a scale design on my drafting table, and I sent it to him, and he made the front wheel special. The brakes are 360-degree brakes, and I went with those because they're real small and they don't hide the wheels. So that's why I went with that.
Again, just adds to the futuristic styling and everything you got going here. Well, as you know, Eddie, this show is all about engineering and design, and Robin's dream has always been to bring out this type of innovation that maybe someday can be brought into production bikes. And having a bike like this that just absolutely pushes the edge of all conventional thinking is just a dream come true for Robin, and being an international show and seeing all this type of innovation for around the world, and then coming back home and seeing a good old boy from North Carolina come up with something that's totally mind-bending is a true pleasure for Robin and the industry, and to have you take the time and put this kind of effort is really appreciated by the AMD show. Can you give us an idea of how many hours are involved in something like this?
Yeah, well, I clocked my hours, and the hours are just a few hours over 2,200.
Well, there you go. Again, these entries and the level of competition at the AMD World Championship is just top of the line. These guys are so dedicated. Thousands of hours goes into these bikes. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us, and hope to see you again next year, and good luck in the competition.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Freestyle, 7th place. Some guys really just aren't satisfied with the way things have been working for the past 100 years. You come along with a guy from North Carolina, he just wants to turn everything around. Eddie Leeds from Quantum League, 7th place in the freestyle. Civilized.
And you're watching the AMD World Championship of Custom Bike Building vidcast. We're sponsored in part by Flathead Power by S&S, Motorcycle Storehouse, Arlen Ness.